everybody, and welcome to Let's Talk Assassin's Creed, your number one podcast for all things Assassin's Creed. In today's episode, we're going to be taking a spoiler-free look at the Siege of Paris. Now, this is the second out of 3 DLCs released so far, and by far it's my sort of favourite at the moment, but I'll get into that a bit more. In this episode, we're just going to be taking a look at the side activities, the world, and my thoughts and feelings, without touching on the story, because I know the DLCs just came out. So overall, how do I like this DLC? Well, it's kind of better than Wrath of the Druids, which is hard to beat because I love Ireland, I love the werewolf archetype, and I really love the story. But Siege of Paris takes the philosophy of smaller is better, and actually runs with it. The map is surprisingly a little bit smaller than any of the maps in the game now, and you would think that smaller isn't going to be any good, but it actually works perfect. And the reason it works perfect is there's a lot less downtime between activities. One of the problems I had with Wrath of the Druids, the more I played it, the more I completed it, and the more I explored, is to do certain challenges. There was about 5 to 10 minute downtime between bumping into an enemy type. This could be the Children of Danu, a wolf, or an animal AI, or even just a roaming guard. This was annoying, but in Siege of Paris, I haven't noticed that, which is kind of great. I haven't actually got to a point where I'm not running into something. Now, part of me is annoyed by it, because I was riding my horse merrily along, and a wild boar knocked me off. That was annoying, but it was great, because finally, I'm not bored riding. I'm getting attacked off my horse. I'm stumbling upon something. The distance may say 16,000, whatever they run off, but it doesn't feel it because the map feels smaller. And that is a great accomplishment and something I'm so happy to see. The only downside I did have, and this is a personal feeling, and I know there's a logical reason behind it, is you don't get attacked by human AI as much. Now, I know from talking to people that we're going to Francia, we are new here, we have no reason to be attacked. But looking at the gameplay from Wrath of the Druids and England and Norway, I'm used to stumbling upon patrolling guards and then getting attacked. This has been common knowledge, so for me it feels kind of jarring to now have a DLC where it makes sense not to be attacked. And it's a really thing to say that I don't want to complain on it too much, because it's a good idea. You know, you come to Francia, you're not here to start a war, you're here on, won't say more, but you're not getting attacked unless you do something to annoy them. And I shot someone in the face and that annoyed them, so that was my bad. There is a new enemy type, the horse type, and I will say, I don't like them. I know it's really bad stuff about saying you don't like them, but the challenge to defeat them is kind of one-trick pony. I've tried my bow to slow down time and hit the weak spot, took forever. I have used one-handed sword, great sword, 2 CXs to try and attack them on the horseback, took forever. But if you're patient and you've got missile reversal, it's 10 times easier. So it's kind of annoying that it feels like these enemies are just missile reversal enemies. There's no thing where they just wail on them, because they have really close range attacks. If you're too close, they're going to hit you and do some damage, because there is a very high power requirement. I think it's 300 or 400. I can't remember. I'm not actually got my Xbox open at the moment, so I apologise if the information is incorrect. So it was kind of annoying. When I did manage to defeat one with missile reversal, they didn't fall off the horse and continue fighting. They stayed on the horse, which was kind of weird. I would expect them to fall off and jump up and run at you with the sword, but no, he stayed on the horse. So if it's intentional or it was just a one-off, I don't know, but the horseback enemies are a bit tricky and annoying, in my opinion. The second new enemy type that I'm not a fan of is the rats. Rats. They're not really common. It's a very uncommon thing to find, and once you see them, they're really simple. But they're, and how do I word it? They're too similar to a Plague Tale. They have glowing eyes, like Plague Tale. You scare them off with fire, like Plague Tale, or just swinging your sword around. And once you've got rid of them down a drain or whatever it is, it's completed. When I first ran into one and I just got eaten by them and started trying to attack them and they ran off, I just thought you could have done a little bit more with them. It's really too simplistic that I just have to swing my sword around to try and push them down a sewer. I may stumble upon more as a player that could incorporate puzzle elements with them. You know, to get from A to B, you need to push them down sewers and so on. But so far, they don't stand out. It's like it's an addition to capture the Plague Tale hype, because Plague Tale is set during France through the Dark Ages. So I don't know, but I just know I'm not a too big fan of rats. I will admit I played Plague Tale and I've not played it since because that game freaks me out. I played Dishonored, don't mind the rats, there's not many of them. All the rats in Plague Tale kind of give me the creeps. But anyways, I'm getting off topic here. Just rats are creepy. So on some positives, Black Box missions. And everybody who knows me in the Discord server will know I have complained about Black Box missions. And the reason I've complained is I was fed false information. A long-time friend told me that the Black Box missions in Unity give you multiple endings. They don't. Apparently all the cutscenes are the same, it's just different ways of achieving them. And I played my first Black Box mission last night, and oh my god, it was so good. I felt like an assassin, and it was weird because you do Black Box style missions in the game anyways, you know, by choosing how you want to fight. You know, you pick the location, you pick how you approach it, but in here there's more incentive. There's actually ways to do it, ways to get like information, and it works really well, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm so glad they added it, because the way with a smaller map, the more dense locations, it kind of fits in. So if we take a look at the world then, because the world is what really stands out, and it's another example of how really good Assassin's Creed is getting at world building. England is phenomenal. The way they designed it with the biomes and everything is just jaw-dropping. Norway, again, captures that snowy, wintry wilderness perfectly. Ireland captures the beauty, the roaming hills, the mysticism of Ireland perfectly. And it's no different here. France is caught in a beautiful light. There's great open fields with phenomenal lighting that gives it such a bright and beautiful feeling. But in the war-torn areas that have been run down with the king and other story stuff I'm not going to say, you get that dark, gritty, gloomy part of Paris, well, France, and it works phenomenal. The first time you go to France, you bump into a dark and gritty area, and it just feels so war-torn, so under siege, which I'm not going to say more of, but it just fits that atmosphere. And I loved how I went from a lovely red, vibrant poppy field to a town that had burning buildings, and the tone shifted to a darker grey area, and it didn't feel like a forced shift. It felt like a real natural shift from bright, vibrant field to dark and gritty, and I loved it. I love that change of pace, and it feels so smooth. And it gives actually a great way of exploring, because it makes the map feel different. Now, I know a lot of assets may have been reused because it's just easier in gameplay, but I have heard in other games where they have DLCs with new maps, things get copy and pasted and it looks identical. But it doesn't feel that in these maps. The maps feel new, different and vibrant, and it's definitely something I would recommend people just for the world alone. What you can do in the world is kind of cool. There's some hidden locations to find, Viewpoints are really nice to find as always, and with a smaller map, it doesn't feel a chore to go get them all. That's just a personal feeling. There's a lot of mysteries and world events, and one that I didn't realise was missing from Island was those like side quest ones. I didn't know they were missing in Island. I noticed that you didn't do many side quests except for the King's Request from the pigeon boxes, but I didn't realise there was those world events where you just get stopped by a person asking for help. So it was weird just to go to France and someone stops you for help. It was like, oh, I missed this. You know, I love doing them in England, and I've done a few podcast episodes on why world events are a fantastic addition to the game, and having those little icons is always fantastic. One thing I hated is I found song sheets again, and then things are giving me nightmares. But it's like this map is incorporating everything that makes what we want good. Now there's a lot more to be done, yes, for the perfect but smaller map. Assassin's Creed style content with black boxes. Beautiful map again. I'm going to keep repeating that because I love the map. The story is actually not that bad. I do mind it. And the world, stuff to do in the world, is phenomenal. And one of the problems I've had with Valhalla, and I'm very vocal about it, is I don't like some post-launch content. River raids aren't my style. I'm not going to really play them if I have to. Raids aren't my style because I like to be stealthy, but I'll play them. So when I saw the rebel missions, I was like, ugh, boring, tedious missions. And they're not. They're actually kind of really exciting to do. And what makes them so exciting is there's two modes to them. There's a solo mode, you do it yourself, or there's a team mode where you have some team AI. And it's the team AI that I think makes it fun, because just like with the river raid system, if they die, they die, but you lose out on bonuses, which is for the currency system. So there's this really added benefit that when you do the missions, you've got to be tactical. If all your AI friends die and none remain, you're going to lose out on some bonuses. So top tip, pick ranged. Ranged are less likely to get attacked. I've tried ranged and I've succeeded in more missions ranged than I have with melee people, so just top tip. The content is a bit repetitive, you know, it's like go here, do this, go here, do that, but I don't mind the repetitive because it's actually kind of fun just to go to an area solo, stealth it, or take your ranged buddies and stealth it before they can do anything. The first one I did, and it was a comical moment, is I walked into the camp, they all had blue dots, and I thought, hey, they're my teammates. Went behind a shed, and my teammates were sitting by a fire just chilling. So I went to the area, killed them all stealthily, and I got a complete mission. And all that my archery friends did was just sit by a fire, chatting stories. So, kind of good, they were out my way, because if they were melee, I think it would have ruined the flow of my stealth, which is a bit off topic, but I think I should raise it. I have the Isu armor with the wings. If you transmog the Ezio armor, or Altair, or Bayek armor, or Basim onto your Isu, when you assassinate somebody, you get the wing effect, and it looks so cool to have Ezio with like angel wings. But anyways, so it was really cool to be able to just stealth them and not have to worry that my aim is going to come in and just ruin the flow of stealth. So overall, this DLC is fantastic. The story's great, and as I've already said, the world, everything in it is great, but it's not perfect. And the reason it's not perfect is I feel like it's another character building type DLC like Wrath of Druids, which I love, and I will always defend them type of DLCs over narrative that push games on the game story, because there's always that worry that if you don't buy the DLC, you're going to feel forced. Like Odyssey's Fate of Atlantis, if you don't buy Fate of Atlantis, you won't understand Valhalla, for example. So I don't like DLCs that push narrative too much, but for some, I will warn, it could be off-putting. That does feel like a character building. But if you don't mind the character building and you want to get lost in the world, I would highly recommend it, because a smaller map with more assassin-focused missions with Black Box is just a great change of pace for Valhalla. You play Valhalla in Ireland as a Viking, and you do a lot of Viking stuff, but it's nice here to have Black Box missions where you feel like an assassin. And it's kind of weird, I don't know if anyone's noticed it on me, but Eivor seems to be more going along with being an assassin. How you start the story, which I won't say any more about, Eivor has a few lines that make it feel like she wants to be an assassin. So I don't know if they're ever going to push that. From what I'm seeing, the way she's talking, the way she's acting, it's as if it's a high time that somebody pulls her into the assassin life. I think she might, from some of the stuff that I've found, and fingers crossed that I think Hyphen or somebody else, or maybe a future content, because we are due our third free season for Halloween, which I hope continues the story set out in the Master Challenge. But I hope an assassin actually pulls Eivor into the Brotherhood, because she's more and more working alongside them, and this DLC kind of feels like by now she should be with them. And if she does join them, then it just proves in my eyes that this year where content is building Eivor, and year 2 is where we start getting the narrative lore stuff that may push into the next game, which I don't want it to do, because I don't want anyone to feel that they have to buy year 2 content to understand the next game's story, unless they did an AC3 where there's like a cinematic trailer in the game that refreshes everything. So where we have William Miles, telling about Desmond and what was happening, and then boom, you're in AC3. If they did that, then I don't mind. But I just hope the next content ties in with what happened in Valhalla a little bit more. Maybe pushes Eivor into an assassin role, but nothing too lore heavy. So overall, Siege of Paris is a fantastic DLC. Much better than Wrath of Druids in my opinion. I love Wrath of Druids and it's one of my favourite DLCs. But the smaller map and the Black Box missions, and the enjoyment from Rebel missions, and the new weapon type scythes, kind of have me a bit hooked. So overall I am going to rate this DLC 8 out of 10. It's a great DLC, a lot of fun, and I would highly recommend it. If you enjoyed this episode, then please reach out to me on Twitter at AZLetsTalk or email assassinscreativeletstalk@gmail.com. I would really like to hear how you are finding the DLC and any images you have taken. I'm getting more into photo mode, so I'm looking into that. I do have a few surprises coming in the coming weeks, so please keep your eyes peeled on social media and the podcast. And I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you all next week.